In this video, we're going to be tackling good and evil, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I think there's no such thing as good and evil, as controversial of a statement that may be. I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man. I teach you how to build financial independence, how to build the physique that you want, how to get the girls that you want, and how to go from the victim mindset to what I call the Bulldog mindset. I know some of you are already triggered. It's okay. How, as an agnostic, stoic, and a philosopher, do you tackle, quote, the problem of evil and come out of it thinking that there is a God and it loves you? Thank you again for everything. Kind regards, Guy. I tend to look at the world in the viewpoint of what would be really more of a Buddhist or Hindu point of view. It's weird for me to say that, considering that my dad was born in Turkey and was raised Muslim, okay? And I was born here in the US, but raised Christian. This is why what I'm saying has some merit compared to what a lot of other people say. Understand that I've been raised in a different religion, okay, that I have had experience with several different religions, and that I've looked at a lot of different philosophies and religions in life, and I've sort of come to conclusions from those things. Not just preaching the one thing I've been told and that I know and saying that has to be it. Most people that are very sure of their religious choices in life, it's just a coincidence they happen to be born into the correct religion. Okay, that's just something to think about. What do I mean when I say that I have sort of a Buddhist and Hindu, and why do I combine those two? Well, because my real viewpoint, what I've come to, I tend to see the world as a oneness, that we're all one, that God is everything, God is everywhere, that God is one, that you are God, I am God, right? This whole basic viewpoint that I would say is reflected in some Buddhist sects, not all of Buddhism, but definitely within Hindu, okay, which is interesting, right? There's, some theological reasons why I believe that this is true, but when I say believe this is true, I don't know. Nobody knows the answer to these questions. A lot of people think they do, and they're pretty sure of it, but we really don't fucking know. Now, one of the reasons that led me down this trail is just this idea of the omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence of God. If God is omnipresent, right, that's the one that I think is fair to talk about. If he's omnipresent, that means he's everywhere. So if someone is everywhere, in order for them to be everywhere, they must be everything by virtue of that, right? If you're everywhere, then you literally must be all of the atoms, everything. Otherwise, you couldn't be everywhere. You could be almost everywhere, but if you're everywhere, you must be everything. And if you're everything, well, then I'm God, you're God, we're all God. God is everything. Makes sense. I don't think that's really incompatible with a lot of religious teachings. Now, the key thing here, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is this idea of a singular consciousness, or maybe that we're all part of this giant organism, which is not a really ridiculous concept either, considering that within your body, there are a lot of living things. And it's kind of weird to figure out, is that what is you? Like, if you were to draw the boundaries of you, what is you? What about mitochondria? Mitochondria is a bacteria that evolved to live inside of animal cells. How about sperm? That's a good one, right? Your sperm, they even move on their own, and they even have some smarts on their own. They're like little intelligent things that have half of your DNA. It's not really clear where the organism begins and where the organism ends. I have to say that there's nothing good or bad, but my interpretation of it flavors it. If you're seeking enlightenment, one of the first steps along the path through meditation and mindfulness will be to experience things as they are and not to flavor them with your interpretation. Well, the better you get at doing this, the more relaxed life is, the less you have the victim mindset, and the more that you can handle and accept things, and you can change your reality. You can change how you decide to interpret things. It gives you more control more sovereignty over yourself. And when you subscribe to that belief, if you take it to its end, you must acknowledge that there is really no good or evil. Yes, I acknowledge that there are things that people do that are horrible. I acknowledge that people cause pain to other people and do, things that we would consider to be bad. Okay, but I also acknowledge that it's just an interpretation that we've put on. With that said, you could say, well, John, if you totally believe that, then it's okay if I harm you. It's okay if I beat you up. It's okay if I, step on puppies' heads and squish them. And of course I would have a problem with that. And so, the only answer to that is either, John, you're just not enlightened enough. If you were enlightened enough, you would allow people to step on puppies' heads and it'd be fine. It'd be cool. It'd be great. And so the answer is somewhere in between, right? Because there is, in my belief, in my experience in life, that there is some cosmic consciousness, that there is some sense of what I'll call love, and that everything that detracts from that is objectively negative. Not necessarily evil, but let's say that it has less of the good. The universe is ordered to some degree, okay? We have logical thoughts. We're talking philosophy here because we have some semblance of order. There's some force, some manifestation that has caused this order out of the chaos, that has organized entropy, okay, and is moving it in a direction. We're technologically advancing. There's something behind this. That's my premise. How do I deal with evil in the world and still believe that there's a God that loves me? And what it ultimately comes down to is me believing that there is no such thing as evil. It's just a lack of love. If you give someone a fuller understanding, they develop empathy. They understand the condition that we're in. If you want someone to act in, quote, an evil way, all you have to do is teach them to dehumanize people, to lack the empathy, to lack the love. Someone who has the love will act out of that. Evil by itself, I don't believe is a force that exists. I do believe that there is love, okay? And if there is God, right, whichever form that, and I think any religion would agree with this, but whatever form that he's in, whether it be a singular embodied consciousness or a cosmic consciousness embodied within all of us being one, all of us being an expression, cells of God's body, if you will, then the basis of that being is love. I don't have a nihilistic view of the world. I know some of you sometimes think that I do, but I don't. When you see the things that I do, right, like for example, okay, I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but I give money to charity to help orphans in India every month, right? Like 10% of the money that I make. If I had a nihilistic view of the world, I wouldn't do that because there'd be no point. Also, I'm not doing it from a religious compulsion telling me to do it. Some religion saying that I must do that. Okay, otherwise I'm not going to go to heaven. I do believe in a greater force in the universe. But I do believe that there is some great consciousness that is orchestrating, that is moving things forward. I believe that everything in your life happens for a reason. I believe that we are moving towards something as human beings, as humanity, as life in general, and that there's a purpose behind it. Okay, I don't know what the purpose is. I am not the great consciousness. Maybe I'm part of it or a manifestation of it like you are, but I believe that there is that. As far as the book I was going to tell you about, it's called An Impersonal God. It is a scary book. Okay, it's one of those books that can really shatter your faith to some degree. I don't necessarily believe this book is absolutely true, but I think it's a great possibility, right? The book basically opens up the idea. It's written in such a way as if it were God speaking to you, telling you that, essentially all the stuff that you believe, it's fine. It's okay. It will help you probably on your way, but really none of it's really necessary. You are God. I am God. You're a cell of God's body. You don't belong to yourself. You're just basically doing his will. You're part of him. You're part of God. We're all part of it. And the idea that you exist yourself, it's just false. It's just a notion that you have. You don't have a separate consciousness or will. You're all just part. You're just a cell in the body that is God. It's a really difficult thing to come to terms with and grasp. Okay, but as I listened to this book, I listened to the audio version of the book. I really started to say, well, this is the only thing that truly makes sense. I'm not trying to convert you guys. I'm not trying to preach you anything. I'm just giving you, for curiosity's sake, if you're wondering where I'm coming from, okay, on these issues, this is the path that I'm on currently. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm always going to be on this path, but as I have gone through life and have experienced and read and studied different philosophies and different religions, it's all pointing towards, I feel like I'm seeing a clearer picture of this reality. If all is one, all right, and we're all one, and we're all God, and God is everyone, all right, then why should I harm myself? Why should I harm you? Why should anyone harm anyone? So to address that issue, the problem of evil, is I don't see a problem of evil. I see a problem of unconsciousness, of people not understanding and having a full sovereignty over themselves, over their minds, understanding that they are part of everything, right? They're drawing very clear boundaries. And because of those boundaries, they are doing things that we would perceive as evil. We're interpreting things as evil. And sometimes we're interpreting things based on just random rules that other people have set up in order to control us. I was just sitting in a church, this last like a couple of weeks or a couple of weeks ago, or for an event, and it was a good church. It wasn't bad. It was like a Christian church, and the pastor, like, good guy, awesome guy, but when I looked at the message, like from kind of fresh eyes, because I hadn't seen this message in quite some time, I realized that it was almost all based on guilt, on doing the wrong thing, on you being bad. And I realized that, wow, that's a heavy burden. It's a heavy burden that we're putting on people that are just growing, that are just evolving, that are just, essentially manifestations of God in one way or another. Whether you believe that God is everywhere and is everything and we're all one and we're all God and God is everywhere and everything, or you believe that you're just a literal creation manifestation of God, a spiritual successor, if you will, spiritual descendant to God. Either way, it's a pretty heavy burden to put on a creation of God. I don't know. It just made me think a lot about this idea and how we classify people as evil and how we dehumanize people based on that, and I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't think that there is such a thing as evil. There's definitely something going on that we don't see. That's my viewpoint. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.